So over the past 6 years of creating content on YouTube, I realized something really important. If being consistent feels hard, it's not a personal failure, it's a system failure. So I used to think the reason why I couldn't stay consistent on YouTube was because the lack of my motivation or discipline, but it wasn't that at all. So the real problem was I didn't have the right systems that allowed me to create videos consistently without relying on willpower. And I feel like today's busy world, willpower just runs out so quickly. So in today's video, I'm going to show you 3 systems that allow me to create content consistently even when life gets busy. So I want to clear something up. These systems won't be about working harder or working longer. The reason why I mention this is because this was my mindset when I was starting making videos. So I had to come to terms that working harder isn't a competitive advantage anymore. Like if you look at people that are struggling to survive, these are ones that are working non-stop just to make ends meet. And these are the people that work the most hours in the day. Whereas people that make the most money, like high achieving entrepreneurs or CEOs, they utilize leverage, knowledge and systems, and this is the mindset we actually want to develop. And I think this matters with YouTube because the harder you push to create something, the more likely you are to burn out and stop. So keeping that in mind, let's start with our first system. So for ages, I created videos like it was an all or nothing kind of task. So if I didn't have a full hour or two to sit down and write and script my videos, I just wouldn't touch the videos at all. Because at that period of time, my life was just so inconsistent. I was working a 9-to-5 job. I was working on other businesses as well, and I think it was impossible for me to know when I'd ever have that time. At that time, thankfully, I was reading Tiago Forte's book, Building a Second Brain. Do you know when you're struggling with something and you feel like the higher power is like, don't worry mate, I got you, and like points out the exact thing you're looking for? I feel like this is one of the moments. So it's a concept called slow burns, and it completely changed the way I create content. After reading it, I realized like I was surrounded by these tiny pockets of unused time during my day. Things like waiting in line for food as always, hiding in the toilets at work, or just finishing early and just chilling in the car, and having these like random 5 to 10 minutes where you're on your phone doing absolutely nothing. So instead of waiting to do a deep work session, I would just add bullet points and random ideas into my video script, and like over time these small inputs used to stack up, and that's when I started to notice that my script writing was getting like 10 times easier to start. I wasn't starting from zero. So slow burns is about consistently adding small inputs to your project, whether that's art, videos, or even studying. And I think this system completely remove the friction to get started. So use the moments you already have, use that unproductive time to your advantage, and kind of like let your videos build themselves before you sit down to finish them. Okay, so a bit of a contrarian thought. So if consistency disappears the moment you're tired, stressed, or busy, then you were never actually consistent in the first place. You were just operating under the perfect conditions. And I really thought about this because on my days where I felt inspired, I would script, I would film, I would edit, absolutely no problem. But the moment when life got busy or work just got a little bit too much, I think YouTube and fitness as well was one of the first things to disappear. And I'd obviously tell myself I'd get back on it tomorrow, or tomorrow will turn to next week, and then you already know the story really. But I realised that nothing was really wrong with my discipline. What was wrong was the setup around me. So every time I wanted to create, there was so many steps involved. So opening a blank Notion document, figuring out what to make, scripting the video, finishing it, opening my camera, plugging my mic in, sorting my lighting out, aligning my teleprompter, setting up all the lights, on. And like by the time I was finished, I was just mentally and physically just dead. There were so many steps to that process. It was just so draining. So to figure out what to actually do, I did the discipline equation, and I realized that the friction was way too high to start making videos. So I kind of redesigned my physical and my digital environment to stop my brain doing these heavy lifts all the time. So my camera stayed out, my mic stayed out, my editing software stayed open on my computer. I made a creative assets folder, so all the transitions, effects, and color grading, and everything I used was just in one place, so I could just use it over and over again without manually searching for it and adding it into every video. And then I realized on the days where I felt lazy, I still create because I changed my environment to match my intentions, which was to consistently make YouTube videos. I think this is a solid difference between creators that try to stay consistent and the ones that actually are consistent. I think the consistent ones aren't always better or more driven. I think sometimes they've removed the decisions from the process to make creating a lot easier. So definitely create an environment where making videos becomes second nature. Okay, so the third system is a system that no one really talks about, and honestly, I think it's probably one of the most important ones. So the past couple of years, I've been through these stretches where I stopped posting completely. Sometimes it's because of paralysis by analysis. I literally couldn't decide what to make because I was so fixated on making it perfect. I literally just made nothing. And other times, life just happens, work gets busy, energy is low, and suddenly 2, 3, 4 weeks have gone past without posting. And personally, I do think it has an impact on your channel because it can steer potential subscribers away because your channel doesn't really look serious or things like that. And I think people want reliability, especially on YouTube. So that's when I realized I needed a system for recovery when I had these dips, or even better, a system to completely avoid these. So I came up with the minimum viable video. So when you fall off, your job is to post something extremely small, simple, and with low effort. The video doesn't need to be great, it just needs to exist. You know, it could be a video about you talking about one idea that you know in your head. It could be a video about how you feel about your niche at the moment. It could be a simple Q&A from, you know, Reddit, and you answer the questions. It could be anything really, really small. And I think this system is perfect for when you need to get out of your own head and just keep momentum going. Because sometimes all you really need is momentum. Like, seeing consistency week on week can help you look at any bigger picture and think, if I continue to rely on this system, you know, success is inevitable. And I think sometimes you just need to look at the last 28 days on your YouTube analytics and just see 4 videos uploaded. And I think even if you couldn't be asked to upload them, like, you never know. Like, one of these videos could do way better than you thought. One could pop off and completely change the direction of your YouTube channel. And I know sometimes life gets in the way, you know, posting does stop, but I think it's all about the recovery speed. You know, the faster you recover, the less impact you'll have on your channel. But here's the most part people get wrong. Posting consistently by itself won't grow your YouTube channel. Like, consistency keeps you in the game, but it doesn't guarantee you results that you want. And I learned the hard way. You know, I was showing up, posting regular, you know, doing everything that people told me to, and still not seeing growth. So if you're consistent and your channel isn't moving, then make sure you watch this video here, because the systems help you show up. But this is what actually turns consistency into growth. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.